Here comes Tony, walking in the room, mic in hand, something's about to boom. Tell me what you gotta say. Tell me, make it count today. Big Tony speaks, and everybody listens. Big Tony speaks, his voice just keeps on lifting. When Tony talks, you know you gotta hear him. Big Tony speaks. Sit right down, let me hear your voice. Share your thoughts, Tony gives you choice. Tell me what you gotta say. Tell me, make it count today. You always speak, Big Tony speaks, and everybody listens. Big Tony speaks, his voice just keeps on lifting. When Tony talks, you know you gotta hear him. Big Tony speaks. Big Tony speaks. He's got something to say every single day. He's got something to say. Come on out and play. Big Tony speaks, and everybody listens. Big Tony speaks, his voice just keeps on lifting. When Tony talks, you know you gotta hear him. Big Tony speaks. Big Tony speaks. Big Tony. Big Tony speaks.
What is going on, y'all? I hope you're doing well today. Having a little bit of throat issues today, kind of a little sore and irritated, whatnot. That's okay. I am still here. I've got all kinds of throat lozenges and etc. So we'll get through this. Oh, do me a favor, y'all. Go down below and hit that thumbs up on both platforms. It is a thumbs up, no matter what you call it. And if you're not already following or subscribed to this channel, please do that at this time. Please follow on Rumble and subscribe on YouTube. And while you're at it, smash that notification bell. It's the same on both platforms, so you know when I am on. With that out of the way, welcome to Big Tony Speaks. I am Big Tony, your host, and today I want to talk to you about I know by now you've probably seen or heard something about the rumor going around, the posts on X, etc., that there's a plan by Iran to drone strike the California coast from a ship offshore. Here's the problem with that, in my mind, is we destroyed their Navy. We destroyed their drone capabilities. We've pretty much destroyed their Air Force. But not much of an Air Force in the first place, but so how are they going to send drones? They don't have anything with that kind of reach from Iran to here. They don't even have missiles that could reach here. The best they can do is regional attacks nearby, countries nearby in the region that they're in. They can't attack the homeland. Now, having said that, I have been saying for quite some time, and it's a fact that we've got 18,000 plus uh, our Muslim uh, loyal uh, terrorists inside our United States border because of the Biden open borders policies. Uh, and we do have this situation where four small drones were uh, stolen. They they're really small drones, but they still can carry something about the size and weight of a hand grenade. You know, which is enough to do some serious damage. Um, depending on what explosive is in your payload. You know, you could do some serious damage. You could take out quite a few people or whatever. You know, and you have four drones to do it with. So I mean that is no small thing. But I've been saying that we need to, because of yes, we are uh, in conflict with Iran, which is uh, the number one sponsor of terrorism, especially Muslim terrorism. Because it's a Muslim regime, and so we are in conflict with them. So of course, those loyal to the Muslim regime are going to try to fight back from within. Because like I said, we have 18,000 plus known terrorists inside the United States. And the majority of them are loyal to the Muslim regime. They we have an explosion here in the United States of Muslims. They are legitimately trying to take this country over. So I wanted to talk to you about that conspiracy theory regarding the drones, and I got this article that I am going to share with you momentarily. There we go. And we'll kind of get into it here. How that sound? Sounds good to me. The Iranian regime's propaganda machine is in high gear over intentionally conflated statements regarding possible Iranian attacks on the U.S. homeland. Disinformation networks have spun these comments to suggest that the U.S. government is planning a false flag attack on U.S. soil so it can blame Iran. The conspiracy theory doesn't do a good job of clearly explaining what purpose blaming Iran would serve. The usual alleged purpose in these types of wild speculation is that the attack would be used as a pretext for military strikes. However, the U.S. is already engaged in military strikes on Iran. So a false flag would not be necessary. I mean, if it was at the beginning of this thing, sure, you know, that might be a possibility because it'd be a way to excuse military intervention, military strikes, etc. Because they attacked us at our homeland, so we have to retaliate. You know, so but that's not the case. See, we're already involved in conflict with Iran. No need for a false flag to get support for attacking them. We're already attacking them. So despite the obvious holes in the story, the claim is spreading widely across Twitter and other social media platforms. The false flag narrative rests on a distortion of what U.S. authorities actually said. Okay, they took some things that some folks actually said, twisted them up, and eliminated certain little pieces of what they said, to make it sound a certain way. Just like 60 Minutes was just caught once again um, editing an interview to change what was being said. They keep doing that, and they keep getting caught. Because I mean, at the very least, the person being interviewed knows what was said, and then they watch the broadcast, and hey, wait a minute, that's not what I said. you know. So in late February of 2026, the FBI circulated an alert to California law enforcement stating that it had acquired unverified information that Iran had allegedly aspired to conduct a surprise drone attack from an unidentified vessel off the coast of the United States homeland against unspecified targets in California, contingent on U.S. strikes in against Iran. The alert explicitly stated that the FBI had no information on timing, method, target, or perpetrators. Okay. It was a kind of, be on the lookout. It was not like, we have confirmation of imminent danger or anything like that. But there have been, hey, just kind of be aware that there have been uh, a little bit of chatter. There has been some chatter, that kind of alludes to this, you know. And in an interview about the FBI memo, a reporter asked the president, quote, Iran revenge plot in California where there would be some kind of boat offshore launching drones towards the U.S. Okay, that was a statement, but it was meant to be some kind of question. Um, Trump answered, quote, yes, it's being investigated, but you have a lot of things happening. And all we can do is take them as they come. The war itself is being prosecuted as well as anybody has ever seen. And other countries are telling me that too. Big countries, powerful countries. They say they've never seen anything like it. And they also agree with what I'm doing. They say it's an evil country, and it's been that way for 47 years. Um, the reporter then asked the president, have you been briefed about how many Iran sleeper cells there could be inside the U.S. right now? Trump answered, quote, I have been. A lot of people came in through Biden with his stupid open border, but we know where most of them are. We've got our eye on, all of them, I think. They came in through the open border policies of Sleepy Joe Biden, one of the worst presidents in the history of our country, and we've got our eyes on them. But the war itself is being prosecuted at a level that nobody's seen before. It's pretty amazing for us. White House Press Secretary Carolyn Levitt called on ABC News to retract its coverage of the memo, stating it was based on a single unverified tip, and adding, quote, no such threat from Iran to our homeland exists. And it never did. A Carnegie Endowment scholar told Bloomberg that Iran, quote, does not have the range to do this. And law enforcement officials characterized the intelligence as, quote, aspirational. Iran does not possess an intercontinental ballistic missile capable of reaching the U.S. homeland. Hitting the continental United States would require missiles with ranges exceeding roughly 6,000 miles. Capabilities Iran has not demonstrated. Tehran has imposed a declared range ceiling of 2,000 kilometers, about 1,200 miles, on its ballistic missiles, which officials say is sufficient to place Israel and U.S. linked bases across the Gulf within reach. Its cruise missiles, such as the Sumar, reach around 2,500 kilometers, and its one way attack drones, like the Shahed uh, series, are designed to saturate regional air defenses in waves. So all they have is regional weapons. They don't have the ability to attack from their homeland to here. And we took out their Navy, so they don't have the Navy to come here and do any type of attacks. I don't think there's a country on the planet that is willing to commit to a strike on the United States homeland because of our known defenses. The the United States has certain known defenses, that would make it extremely difficult to actually make a real fruitful attack on the homeland here in the United States. Plus, you know, the defenses, the military defenses, are nothing compared to the world's largest standing army. The United States has the world's largest standing citizen army. You know, so I mean, they're not like official or anything, but um, good and well that pretty much all 2A people, who are packing, who are carrying the tools of the Second Amendment, um, good and well that they are poised and ready to defend their little patch of the homeland, and they are everywhere. So I mean that, and one of the generals, in World War II of Japan, was quoted as saying that, I'm not going to quote the entire quote, but he said that behind every blade of grass in the United States was a gun. and those guns were pointed at any enemy that might come to the homeland. So it would be foolish to attack the homeland of the United States of America. You know, but I mean, for the most part, our known the known defenses that we have um, would probably be more than sufficient to handle any attempted invasion of our coast at any point, as well as our border between Canada and Mexico. If you know they tried to come in through either of those countries, so we're pretty much covered. I don't see any attacks actually happening against the homeland other than terrorist, one-off attacks. You know, uh, dude goes into a cafe, goes Allahu Akbar, boom. Okay, that's bad, yes, but that's a one-off because, well, he's dead. Yes, that is bad, but that's a one-off. He's dead, and then that's something that I've stated recently. I've stated on this channel multiple times. I've stated on the Killer Carl podcast. I've stated it on the Empty Pockets podcast. So um, this these terror attacks, um, such as we've been seeing, in Austin and Michigan and New York and etc. Until we get these Muslims out of our country, that's kind of going to be the norm. We're going to have terror attacks. We're going to have, you know, Muslims uh, driving their cars into churches, loaded with flammable materials and then opening fire. As if we didn't already have a problem with transgender people doing stuff like that. You know, um, so, but we're gonna start seeing it more and more. That's my prediction. Um, and I think my belief, I may be wrong. My belief is that they're probably going to escalate. You know, like this month we have a couple of small uh, attacks. The kids with the bombs, the guy down in Austin, basically doing a drive by on a club. Um, is basically what he did, and the uh, the attack on that synagogue. Okay, so those are small attacks. Those are you know very very small attacks. So say in 2 3 months, you know maybe there's some kind of event that a bomb or an explosive of some kind is detonated, or um, a shooter pops up and starts trying to shoot people and whatnot. You know, large mass casualty events, etc. Those are going to be they're going to be kind of the norm until we get all these Muslims out of our country, because see, Biden brought them in. They were brought into the United States, and they're known. Many of these are known to the FBI and other law enforcement agencies as terrorists. But the Biden administration didn't care. They just let them come right on in. Yeah. Some have even been here long enough to have gone through the process and become naturalized, you know, to become, legally citizens of the United States. You know, so I mean, we got to get them out. Period. They are a danger to the homeland. This is national security. It's a matter of national security. I mean, they've got to go. I don't care. You know, citizen, not citizen. If they if they're Muslim, if they are of Islam, then they got to go. You know, so that's my opinion anyway. Y'all let me know what your opinion is in the live chat. All of these are regional weapons. In a conflict with the United States, the real threat is to American troops and facilities in the Middle East, not to American cities. The mechanism under discussion was a ship positioned off the California coast or Iranian networks already present in Mexico and South America, not a drone launched from Iranian territory. They don't have that capability. Pro Iran social media stripped the qualifiers, quote, unverified, aspired, and from an unidentified vessel off the coast, and reframed the story as the U.S. government confirming Iran can strike the United States directly, which they can't. The false flag narrative then added a second layer, claiming the U.S. fabricated the threat to justify the war, an argument that ignores the fact that the White House itself denied that the threat was credible. When the White House itself tells you, when asked, by a reporter, they tell you, hey, no, that's not a credible threat. So we're not really all that worried about that. It's not credible. You know, you can't say that the White House uh, created this whole thing to justify the war. They're telling you no, it's not credible. So obviously they're not using it to justify the war. You know, how would that work? When you're saying, oh no, it's not credible, but I want to use it to justify a war. No, no, it doesn't work that way. So rather than a setup for a false flag operation, the president is simply stating that he has been briefed. This threat may exist and is being investigated, but many other things are happening at the same time. And the White House and Department of War have to keep an eye on all of it. Everything that's going on. They gotta, have their hands in many different things all at once. You know, they're not, That's the problem, that people seem to hyper focus on one thing, and they think that that's, even though in the back of their mind they know this isn't true, but they think, because they're hyper focused on this one thing that they don't like, they they think that that's like the only thing that, the Trump administration is doing or worried about. You know, I mean, at the same time that all this has been going on, they've also at the same time been uh, talking to Cuba. They've been fighting against cartels, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They've been doing a whole lot of different stuff while at the same time navigating this conflict in Iran. We've not declared war, nor have they declared war on us. So it's not a war; it's a conflict. So, of course, at some point, we or they may declare war. I hope not, but we haven't actually declared war on anybody since World War II, and nor have they declared it on us. I mean, in order for there to be a legitimate war, it has to be declared. Hey, we're going to make war with you. Other, otherwise, it's, hey, we have a disagreement and we're going to fight it out. In a battle, between all of us. All of us involved in this situation. But there has to be, consequences. Iran has been attacking U.S. bases around the world, and you know, little terrorist attacks here and there in the United States for 50 years. You know 47. Like quabble over 1 or 2 years. You know, but roughly 50 years they've been. That's half a century, dude. You know, so ever since the Muslim regime took over in Iran. Before that, we were at peace and in fact actually friends with Iran, because they were, before they were Iran. They became Iran after the Muslim regime took over. They were Persia. You know, so. But anyway, let's get back to the article. Many of the conspiracy posts accuse the U.S. of claiming Iran would try to hit the United States with missiles or drones launched from Iran. Of course, that is not what the president or the briefing said. Rather, the concern was that Iran might attempt to strike the U.S. with drones launched by sleeper cells operating just off the coast or possibly from inside the country. In the last several, well, looks like they had some more text there, and then they deleted it and didn't get all of it, because they, in the last several days there, and they didn't finish the sentence. Ostensibly, they deleted and didn't delete the whole sentence. So we'll just go on. The president's concern about radicalized individuals already inside the country carrying out attacks. has been validated by two incidents in the past week: an attempted bombing in New York City and a shooting at Old Dominion University. I'm not so sure that the Old Dominion thing had anything to do with that. Truthfully and honestly, but the the attack on the synagogue was, it's my understanding, was a retaliation for the loss of parents in his home country of Lebanon, due to apparently a an attack that was U.S. involved. You know, so that's my understanding of the motive for that. The Old Dominion situation, I think, had other causalities. However, I do have an article scheduled to share with you all about the Old Dominion situation. It falls in kind of a WTF category. So, so I just wanted to kind of debunk and dispel that whole conspiracy theory, um, between what I said earlier and what the article said and the comments that I made during the article. I think we thoroughly have debunked that conspiracy theory and the conspiracy theory that the U.S. was using that as a false flag, etc. Because, well, there was no false flag needed. You know, it wasn't needed. So But anyway, let's move on to the next article. Um, it's been said for a long time, a long, long time. We're talking at least a few decades. Um, that the United States, because of its leadership, especially under Joe Biden, um, the United States was a laughing stock on the world stage, and that's true. It is true. Other countries, because we had weak leaders, would laugh at us. They would joke about the fat, lazy Americans. They would joke about the uh, the weak leaders that we had, you know, who didn't have the intestinal fortitude to back up the threats that they made, and etc. It would basically do the equivalent of writing a strongly worded letter, and when that didn't work, they would do it again and again. You know, there comes a time when you have to show strength so that the world gets the idea that you're not some weak little uh, uh, nothing. There's a whole lot of words that I could have used there and would have, except that we're streaming this to YouTube as well as Rumble, so I have to kind of be on my p's and q's. So, but yeah, we have to at some point, You have to show that you're not going to be taken advantage of. You're not going to be the weakling that gets the sand kicked in his face. You're not going to be that country that just gets ran over by everybody else. And we have been for over 150 years. Just look at the trade situation. Every single country that we have done trade with for the past 150 years has been ripping us off, has been taking advantage of the United States kindness, you know, etc. And that's the way they look at the United States, or have in the past, for the past 150 years, is the United States is weak. They saw us as weak, you know, and we can't, that's the problem here is, you can't on a global scale, you can't appear to be weak, because they're going to do exactly what they've been doing, is run all over, they run roughshod all over the United States. And we've just been letting them do it as a country. We have just been letting them do it. You know, I mean, even the little kid in school who's being bullied eventually has enough, and he strikes back at his bully. And many times, many times, not every time. Sometimes it takes a few tries, but many times, the very fact that the kid is willing to strike back causes the bully to back off, because it becomes a situation where, see, the bully was attacking him or her, because the person presented a easy target, an easy mark. When the kid decides he's had enough and strikes back, he's no longer an easy mark. So the bully moves on to someone who is an easy mark. For years and years, we have been an easy mark, being attacked by bullies from every side, and we've just been taking it. All right. Now, under Trump, we're showing strength. We're showing the world that, hey, when when we tell you that if this happens, we're going to do this, that's exactly what's going to happen. You know, um, we're presenting a picture to the world that we are not that weak kid that is going to just allow ourselves to be bullied. And that's basically the gist of this next article that I have up for you all. You know, the world isn't laughing at Trump's America. They're escaping globalist leaders to come here. You know, all the people around the world, they come into America. And why are they coming to America? Because even with all the BS going on in this country, even as bad as some people say that America is, even with all our political turmoil going on right now in this country, even with Muslims and communists trying to take over our country, even with 20 million plus so called refugees invading our country under the Biden regime. This is still the greatest country in the world. This is still the freest country in the world. This is still the largest and wealthiest economy in the world. We are it. That's why they want to come to America. No matter, what you may think of America, the rest of the world sees America for what it is. The land of freedom, the land of opportunity, the land of hope. Now, all those so-called refugees that came in under the Biden administration, 20 plus million, they came because the Biden administration offered them a whole lot of freebies. Hey, come to America. We'll give you everything on a silver platter. You ain't got to do nothing. You don't have to do a thing. We'll just hand you everything on a silver platter. Starting right off the bat when you come across the border. Hey, here's a cell phone. Hey, here's this card that magically will always have money on it to the tune of thousands, tens of thousands. It'll always have money on it. Hey, you got something wrong with you, we can set you up with free health care. We're going to hook you up with a place to stay, even if temporarily you're in a camp for a little while. We'll hook you up. They were offered freebies. The word was put out, and it was heard loud and clear. Come to America, get everything for free. Come to America, we'll set you up. You know, but even so, the rest of the world still looks at America as, the land of opportunity, the land of freedom, the land of hope, and, our shining beacons have dulled quite a bit. Our major cities like New York and Los Angeles and etc. The ones that, are seen in movies around the world and on television around the world. They've kind of dulled because of Democrat and communist rule. And in the case of New York, uh, communist and Islamist rule. Because Zoran Mamdani is a Muslim who also believes in the communist way. And but if you look at it, though, you know the 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 laws and rules of Islam kind of mesh a little bit with uh, the laws and rules of communism. They do. They do kind of mesh together a little bit. Um, but you know, although communism may be willing to uh, integrate with Islam, Islam is not willing to integrate with communism. In the end, they may work together for a while, but in the end, as far as Islam is concerned, there can be only one, and that's Islam. So, and they've tried this communist Muslim uh, union alliance, whatever you want to call it. They've tried it before, and the Muslims ate the communists alive. I mean, they did. I mean, it's true. They there can be only one. That's what the global caliphate is about. They see it as they are destined by Allah to be the only governing body for the entire world. You know, and that governing body will tell you literally everything in your life. Tell you how to do everything in your life. How to think, how to everything. You know, which again fits in kind of with communism. Well, let's get into this article here. I've been running my mouth for long enough. I know I'm not alone in my frustration with all the tiresome memes, comments, and other posts by Democrats and other uneducated liberals claiming that the whole world has been laughing at America since Donald Trump was elected. No, they were laughing at America until Donald Trump was elected. Um, they got a taste of him during Donald Trump 1.0 when he was elected the first time. They got a little taste, and that opened their eyes. That woke them up, you know. But now that he's back into office, they're no longer laughing. They are, now kind of worried because hey, what's this guy going to do? Because they said during his first term that that Donald Trump was a wild card that you never knew what he was going to do. You know, it's but the truth is he tells you what he's going to do. You just got to believe him and make your decision based on that. You know, on the world stage, he has done nothing but tell these other leaders exactly what he's going to do. And it's their choice as to whether they believe him. You know, he told Iran twice ahead of time. He told them what he was going to do. Look, if you do this, then this is what's going to happen. You know, not I'll send you a strongly worded letter. You know, he literally told them what he was going to do and then did it. Exactly. Exactly, Marilyn. You have to respect him because he does stand by his word. You know, when he gives his word, when he says he's going to do something, he does it, or at least he gives it his 150% effort to get it done. And then he doesn't forget about it if he doesn't accomplish it. He doesn't just forget about it. He doesn't give up. He moves on to other things, but at the same time, he's still working on those things that that he wasn't able to get done right away, like as he wanted. You know, it's just like you have to try, and if you fail, well, you still have to try. You try something else. You try something else, but you do have to keep everything moving forward. So you move on to the next thing and the next thing while still working on this thing over here. I do that in my daily life. I have numerous projects ongoing that that I don't mention, but I'm doing this, and I have a whole bunch of other things going on that I don't mention, but I'm still working on them, even though I'm moving forward. I'm trying to ever move ever forward, you know. So I mean, I get what I can fully accomplished and completed. Um, but what I can't, if I fail at something, I try something different. I try it a little bit different, a different approach to this thing over here that, maybe I tried and failed. Well, maybe I was coming at it from the wrong direction. So I'm gonna try different things with that while I'm doing other things and succeeding in those things. You know. All right, back to the article. Um, this is the writer, the guest writer for the you know submitted to the Gateway Pundit. So he's speaking from his own perspective. I served 20 years in the U.S. Navy in a uniform and 5 years in a suit with the Naval Security Group between 1963 and 1989. I have immediate family and many longtime friends in the United Kingdom, where I was stationed for about 18 years, 13 in London and 5 in Londonderry, aka Derry, Northern Ireland. Um, During my first tour in Derry, I met and married a local Derry girl, a single mom, and we had 3 children of our own. We divorced in 1977. Our youngest daughter passed away in 1968, and my stepson passed away in 2023. Our son from that marriage served 4 years in the United States Navy, some of that time aboard the command and control ship USS LaSalle AGF 3 in Bahrain during the Gulf War, and has PTSD from his experience there, though not as severe as that of other veterans from that war. Following his service, he remained in the United States working in the shipyards in Long Beach, California. After about 10 years, he returned to his hometown in Northern Ireland, where he married, divorced, and was employed by the British Postal Service, aka the Royal Mail, for about 25 years. He recently retired from there, and this is where my challenge about the world laughing at us begins. In my son's case, Keir Starmer and his Labour Party's destruction of the United Kingdom from within, similar to what the Democrats are doing here, gave him reason to leave. He was a supporter of Donald Trump even while working for the Royal Mail and informed me that many of his coworkers were also supporters. Some even made their support clear by putting up FJB posters and displays at work. F Joe Biden, you know. Um, Many of my son's friends encouraged his move to the United States because there was no longer any future in Britain or the Irish Republic due to the recently elected anti Semitic president of Ireland, who welcomes the same kind of Middle Eastern invaders as Starmer, with the majority being military age males with very few women and children. What is going on, Joseph? Glad to see you in the chat. 65. Oh, that's an ad. Oh, let's see. The encouragement from his coworkers and friends convinced him to leave the UK. He sold his house, car, and other items and moved to the United States at Christmas. Now, that's a heck of a time to make a move. He is currently awaiting paperwork from the State Department so he can complete the final stage of permanent residency, vote, obtain his driver's license, and get a job. He wants to do everything legal, which is why he has nothing but contempt for the Democrat Party. It is no longer Great Britain, just Britain. The Muslim conquest is well underway, and it's happening here. Um, I also have many friends in London from my 13 years there, but because of Lord Mayor Sadiq Khan's uh, policies and the destruction of that once beautiful city, most of them have left the city for other parts of Britain or left the country completely. Well, I hear that at the polls, the ice is slowly clearing off. And eventually, there's going to be some dry land, especially down there in Antarctica. From what I hear, underneath all that ice, it's an amazing landscape. So yeah, maybe a bunch of us moving to Antarctica. you know, or up to the North Pole. Anyway, I really don't know where Americans can go because, see, the problem with Americans fleeing and going elsewhere is, well, the United States is, as I stated earlier, Mars, maybe, yeah, yeah. That's why Elon Musk, he's got that thing. He's trying to get Mars ready to colonize. You know what I mean? You know, I believe that that's his plan. Is when United States falls, he's going to go elsewhere, literally off planet. You know, so that I think that's his plan. But yeah, I mean, the United States, as I said earlier, is the freest country in the world. No matter how bad you think it actually is, if you look at it objectively from the outside, we are actually the freest country in the world. We're the world's largest economy. We're the richest country in the world. You know, I mean, we're the only global superpower. That's why all the countries call us when they need quote police actions done when they need us to be the world's policemen. You know, it used to be that there were two world superpowers, and then the Soviet Union fell. Now there's only one global superpower. So, I mean, we have the strongest defenses. We're the freest country. We're the richest country. You know, we're the land of freedom. We're the land of hope, the land of opportunity. What other country can you say any of those things about? You know, there are none. No other country matches even partially to the United States. I hear you. Yeah, we are really getting effed from inside and out. I hear you. I don't know. It's inevitable that somebody is going to be the most powerful. Somebody is going to, have the advantage. It's inevitable. That's just human nature. You can't you can't really change human nature. And I'm speaking on a global scale. Individuals and small groups can uh, train themselves to go against human nature. Um, Christians in many ways uh, overpower human nature over some things, um, etc. Various different religions do. Look at the Buddhists. I mean, the Buddhists have trained themselves to do some really amazing things. You know, the Buddhist monks is what I'm talking about. So um, they've trained themselves to do some really amazing things that are actually kind of against nature. Right. I mean, you know, and you're right. It is strong in Nigeria, and they very well could be. You know, they very well could be. These so-called developing nations. You know, they are what we once were. Way back. They're developing. They're becoming. They're maybe starting to see some their actual potential, what they could be. And where are they seeing that? They're seeing that in the United States. They're seeing that in some of the more developed first world countries. You know, and hopefully they're looking at these first world countries and seeing the mistakes that our countries are making and saying, no, we don't want to do that. Hopefully, hopefully they're learning from the rest of the world, learning what not to do. you know and you know I mean, that would be, the optimal thing, is that they learn from the rest of the world of what not to do, and figure out, a way to do it better, you know. But, I'm kind of doubtful of that because that whole region in Nigeria is ate up with warlords and, power hungry, evil people, you know. So I kind of doubt they're gonna figure out the way to do things that is better than the mistakes that we've made. Many of them tell me how lucky we are to have Trump instead of the likes of Starmer and Macron. Some have commented that Starmer is worthless and supports the Muslim invasion in Britain. Well, that's our entire Democrat Party is they support the Muslim invasion of the United States. There are plenty of videos on the internet that more than support this viewpoint. Unfortunately, most Brits and Irish are hesitant to post, quote, derogatory comments about Starmer, his Labour government, or the Muslim invaders because they do not want to end up in jail. But word will always get out one way or the other, just as it did with Tiananmen Square. We remember Tiananmen Square? I do. All the lefty hype about, quote, the world laughing at us is just that, nothing but hype. Well, he's talking about on a personal level. The the average person in England, Ireland, Scotland, Europe, other countries, the average everyday person isn't really concerned with America, except that hey, I'd like to go there. But when you're talking about the other countries laughing at us, we're talking about on a global political geopolitical scale level that we're talking about the governments are laughing at us, and they have been. Why do you think that for the past 150 years they've been ripping us off in trade? Why do you think that they take advantage of the United States or have um, at every turn? You know, and they do, or they have until Trump. Trump is not allowing that to happen. So um, I don't really think that the dollar is going to actually collapse. Now, its value has gone down considerably um, over the years, um, but I don't think it's going to collapse. At least not anytime soon. Um, so I mean, but it will take a little bit more to live. Um, because as the value of a dollar goes down, you can buy less with it, so you need more of it. You know, and exactly that's the thing is what choice do we have? We do what we have to do. That's where that phrase came from. You know, you have no real choices but to deal with it. And yes, Starmer has sold his country out big time. He is a horrible individual. I mean, how do you do what he's done to his country, you know, and still think of yourself or be thought of by anyone else as a good person? He's a horrible individual. Just like our entire Democrat Party. They are horrible people because they are actively, and I'm not excluding the rhinos on the Republican side. They are horrible people as well. Well, I mean, how do you take one man, even as amazing and great as Donald Trump is, or um, you take one man and you plop him down in the middle of this corrupt, infested, festering boil of a government, you know, and and expect that everything's going to be perfect, and everything is going to work out just as we hoped, and everything's going to work out perfectly. For Donald Trump, he's going to be able to clean up literally everything. You know, turn our government from being a bureaucratic wasteland full of corruption and evil into a bright and shiny, totally non-corrupt, uh, well-oiled machine that actually works for the people like it's supposed to. I mean, it's wishful thinking. You know, I went into this whole Trump thing. I voted for Trump the first time. I voted for Trump the second time. I voted for Trump the third time. You know, but I went into it full with the full knowledge that he's promising a lot. He's promising what the people want. But I went with the full knowledge that there's no way he's going to be able to get everything done. There's no way that he's going to be able in 4 years to clean up, our government completely. Now he can put a dent in it. He can get the ball rolling, and if we can, keep control of the House and the Senate, and we can put, somebody who is like-minded that will continue the work that Trump started, maybe in 2 or 3 presidencies, if we can keep it going that long, we might actually get our country back. It could happen, but not in 4 years, not, with one man fighting tooth and nail to try to get it done, to try to do it. All he can really do in a lot of situations is just get the ball rolling. you know, and he could only do so much as far as so-called draining the swamp, you know, because I mean the entire government, the entire United States federal government is corrupt. They're all corrupt. You just got to judge how much corruption can you deal with. You know, and no, it's not that you don't. You know, well, no, it's probably not a good idea to polish a turd. I mean, it's probably a better idea to throw the turd out, and flush it, as you said. You know, throw the turd out, flush it, start over. You know, I mean, well, he could if he didn't have so much opposition. But that's the problem. You're going to clean up the corruption. Well, the corruption's going to fight back, and they are. And here's the thing: they saw it coming. They saw Trump coming. they started getting ready. They started putting people in place in certain places. They started, and they've modified their plans on the fly. The number one thing, though, as far as the Democrats go, people who've really been fighting him the most, they work in lockstep, in unison, like a beehive. They think with one mind. They even between the different factions of the Democrat Party, they may have their fundamental disagreements, but their core so-called values are the same, and because of that, they march in lockstep. When it's time to vote, they all vote down uh, the same line. They all vote the same. They when it's time to fight for this thing and fight for that thing, they fight together. It's very rare that one of them fights for something against their own party. Well, see, that's why we have the three different branches. Is the three branches are supposed to be checks and balances against each other. The Congress checks and balances against the executive and the judicial. The judicial checks and balances against Congress and the executive. The executive is supposed to have checks and balances against Congress and the judicial. See, they're supposed to regulate and uh, keep each other in line, but that hasn't actually worked in years. You know, funny thing is there are no laws that says that. Now Congress does, but there's no laws that says that the president has to even listen to the Supreme Court. They do it because of optics, how things look. You know what I mean? Um, but literally every president has gone against the Supreme Court. Supreme Court orders this, orders that. Literally every president has ignored the Supreme Court and done things anyway. They've gone against the Supreme Court. So, but there are no laws that say that the president has to uh, even listen to the Supreme Court. You know, much less any lower court, any of these district court judges. You know, so I mean, but they do it again. They do it because of optics. How things look to the American people. Oh, I agree about the line item veto. I thoroughly agree that they should bring the line item veto back. He should be able to take a bill that the Democrats have snuck some stuff in. He should be able to take that bill and veto this line and that line and this line. You know, and take out all the things that uh, we don't want. I mean, so I mean, right? Exactly, exactly. You know, he was famous for saying that. They've made their ruling. Let them enforce it. See, here's the thing. Here's the thing. The president is the. Oh no, you're good, Joseph. I like having discussions with my chat. You know, that's why I tell everybody get in that chat. You know, I like having discussions with my chat. And hey, it's kind of on topic. I mean, so we're good. you know? Now I am probably going to have to go here shortly, but we still got time. Uh, but yeah, no, you're good. You're good. But you're exactly right with that quote from Andrew Jackson. Yes. The president is the number one top dog law enforcement officer. The president, the executive branch, is the law enforcement that enforces what Congress and the Supreme Court rule. See, you know, without the president, you know, and his federal agencies, federal law enforcement, etc. Um, they can't. Congress can't enforce anything that they rule, nor can the Supreme Court. So, I mean, they the Supreme Court tries to order the president, do this or don't do that. You know, there is no law, on the books that says that the president has to even pay attention. You know, but as I said, you know, for the most part, the president pays attention for optics because of how it looks to the American people. See, the American people, as a population, I'm not talking about individuals here. I'm talking on a population level. Okay, the American people kind of see it as if if I go to court on something and court rules a certain way, I have to abide by that ruling. Otherwise, I go to prison, go to jail, whatever. I have to abide by the court's ruling, and then they project that onto the government, onto the president, onto etc. Um, and they expect that if the court rules something that well the president has to abide by that, and etc. There's no law that says that the president has to abide by anything that the Supreme Court uh, orders or rules or whatever, um, at all. Now, Congress does have some power over the president, but they cannot usurp the power of the president. They can't uh, take away his constitutionally endowed authority. Um, that's unconstitutional. However, Congress has, um, over the life of our country, they have made many unconstitutional bills that are still many of them are still actually on the books and actually law. You know, but they have made some unconstitutional laws. You know, and gotten them passed, gotten them signed by presidents, etc. So there's there's been a number of laws just in my lifetime that I've checked them out. I've been like, really, that's what that law does. That's not constitutional. The Constitution literally has clauses in it about this very thing, and it's not constitutional. But you know, all three branches, at one time or another, are guilty and have been guilty of overstepping their bounds. Um, Currently, right now, the judicial is overstepping its bounds with all these rogue judges uh, going. They're literally going outside of their authority. They're going outside of their jurisdiction and their authority level, and they're trying to usurp the power of the president. That's the one thing that the other branches can't do is usurp the power of the president. Um, and here's the thing: these judges and the Democrats, they know they're going to fail in most cases, but they also know that these cases are going to take a long time. Their whole point by doing it is to slow the president's administration down. Try to make it so that he's unable to accomplish the things that he promised the American people that he was going to do. See, and that's what they did during his first term. That with the two impeachments and everything else, they knew those impeachments were going to fail. They knew it when they drew up the articles of impeachment that it was going to fail. But their whole point wasn't to actually get him impeached. The whole point was to throw a monkey wrench in the machine works to slow everything down. You know, they're you know their whole plan during his first term and during this term is simply slow the machine down. But thank you so much. Thank you so much, Joseph. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. I get so few of those, it actually catches me off guard. But yeah, I thank you so much. I do work extremely hard on this show. I'm up early in the morning, and I go to bed early in the morning. um, I literally sleep. What's that? It's I work hard. I get done with my show, and if I don't have to go and jump on somebody else's show or whatever, I'm immediately working on the next day's show. Um, I don't have like a whole bunch of people. I don't have a producer. I do everything myself. I don't have people working for me. You know, yeah, I literally, you know, I have made. I've been doing as long as I've been doing this. I've made entirely a total of $50 the entire time that I've been doing this. I don't. I'm not in it for the money. I'm not in it to get rich. I enjoy what I do, and I'm trying to get the message out, trying to get people, uh, um, trying to get them motivated to actually save their own country. You know, I mean, I've been screaming and shouting for so long, you know, and I will continue to scream and shout, you know, to try to get people's attention, to try to get people motivated to uh, to try to save this country, to try to bring it back from the brink of destruction that the Democrats literally had us at. People don't realize just how bad off this country was after the Biden regime. They we were in some really, really super bad shape, but we're not out of the woods. This country is still in some really bad shape. That's why I say, fixing this country and getting this country back on its feet and everything after the damage that the Democrats have done, it's going to require us holding on to the House and the Senate for as long as we possibly can. And right now we are poised to lose control of the House and the Senate. And in that respect, I think Carl is kind of right. I think our Congress people and our senators, I think the Republicans, they don't want control. They want the status quo. They want everything to be just as it is, and they can keep on uh, taking money from different lobbies, and they can keep on insider trading, and they can keep on having their slush funds and whatnot. You know, they can keep on doing the corrupt stuff that they've been doing for so long. That's what they want. You know, and our legislature, both houses, both parties, have long, long, long since forgotten that they work for us. It's not the other way around. They work for us. We pay their salaries. You know, they work for us. And that's something that the American people need to remember. And that's something that it would do good for um, the representatives and senators to remember, and that it is true that they work for us. They work at our pleasure. You know, when we say that we want something done, you know, if they don't do it, we can vote them out. Put someone else in there, give them a shot. If they don't do it, we can vote them out. You know, we have that ability. But we've got to do like the Democrats, though. We've got to speak with one voice. We've got to vote in unison. We've got to literally get as many people out there to vote on our side as we possibly can every election. We got to make every election like the 2024 presidential election. You know, make it so big, so overwhelming that even they're cheating. And yes, they cheated in the 2024 election. There is evidence, there is proof. They cheated. And yet we still won because we made it that big. We made it that overwhelming that even their cheating didn't win it for them. Excuse me, y'all. Mm. But we've got to we've our work is never done because it's a constant fight. You know, and it's a constant fight to to keep from reaping the repercussions of allowing the Democrats to have control, because they've literally told us what they were going to do when they got control back. You know, we may end up, if they get control back, we may be end up, the end of the United States as we know it. It'll go from being the United States of America to being either the Islamic Republic of America, or uh, the Union of Communist Republics of America, or the United States will just break up. Because see, here's the thing: every single state in this union, and there's a reason it's called a union, is because each and every one of these states is set up to be its own individual country. It's a union of these individual states coming together and creating a federal government that binds all of the states together, that creates this country. Each and every one of the individual United States has its own flag, has its own constitution, has its own government, that is modeled identically to the United States federal government. So, we have the entire possibility that, you know that we could actually see the last of the United States of America as we know it. You know, U.S. could break apart. It could become an Islamic republic. It could become a communist uh, republic. And those are all possibilities. In the foreseeable future. If the Democrats get control. Because see, here's the thing. I don't know if you've noticed, all of you, that the Democrats have a tendency of accusing the Republican Party and Donald Trump, and etc., of doing the very things that they are actually engaged in doing. And they have accused the Republican Party of planning to end elections. So that tells me that that's actually in the playbook of the Democrat Party, that they plan to end elections. So y'all keep that in mind. Right, right. Hey, from what I hear, there's all kind of critters down there that we could feast on. From what I hear, now the weather is kind of rough from what they say, but uh, you never know. I mean, it's really the only real unpopulated place on the planet, really. I mean, we got the extreme north around the North Pole, you know, and we've got Antarctica, you know. So I mean, that's really, I think that would really be the uh, the final terrestrial frontier, I would say, is populating Antarctica. You know, um, going down there and figuring out technologies to make that harsh environment habitable and etc. And from what I hear, they're actually pretty good fishing down there for all kinds of different species. but uh, but yeah, I mean, we've got to fight for our country if we don't want to lose it. You know, so with that though, I'm gonna go ahead. My throat is getting more and more sore as this goes on. I'm gonna go ahead and call this an episode for today. Y'all do join me Monday through Friday for more at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for more Big Tony Speaks. And hopefully the next time you see me, the uh, the throat won't be an issue. I don't know. I think it's allergies. Greenland, that may be a possibility too, right? I've actually seen uh, a lot of video from Greenland that shows the population, and I kind of agree with you. Um, but yeah, good night, y'all. God bless you all. God bless America. Um, as I said, come back Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for more Big Tony Speaks. And do me a favor before you leave out, hit that thumbs up down below. And if you're not already following the channel, hit that follow button on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, and both platforms smash that notification bell so you know when I come on. For now, though, this is Big Tony Speaks, and I am Big Tony, and I am out of here. You all have a great one.